Yeah, let me hide all my other stuff.
So I think hey everybody.
Hey, welcome to, you know why they call it, I can see that we're the dash in dashboard here because we got a dash when we're done over here. Hey, welcome everybody. We're gonna really quick. I see, I see dashboards.
You see dashboards,
I see
yes.
dashboards.
So we're going to get into a little home cloud tonight.
Home
Okay,
cloud. Oh yeah,
today.
so we're talking cloud today. We're talking cloud stuff, even though I might slip in my favorite topic while I'm at it. But Uncle Lair, tell us
So
what you're looking at over here before we go crazy.
so before you go, yeah. So I've got a home server. I've got a little rack over here to the side. And what I recently did was I installed Proxmox, which is a hypervisor, and it has a lot of good things about it. But um, I've got the beast that's been sitting there, but it's getting cooler here in Brooklyn. So I needed to heat the house up. So I have it running all the time now to heat my room. Not really a good use of resources, but
getting cooler, and I heard a tree grows over there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's nice about Proxmox, it's a virtual environment, completely free, open source, built on Linux. A lot of cool stuff about it. I've got a Windows system running. It connects to it. I can pop it out and run it. But basically, it's a nice way if you've got a server at home or a larger machine and you want to virtualize things and build your own home cloud. That's what this is for.
Home clouds.
Home clouds.
Who would have thunk it?
So what I did, what I've been playing around with is something called a NAS, right? Network accessible storage.
That's right.
And TrueNAS is what I chose. TrueNAS is
TrueNAS.
Log in. TrueNAS is just another free and open source NAS. And what I've got is I've got files that I've stored on it, and it's really connected to my network, and so I can back up from other machines to it. And I'm using ZFS, which is an advanced file system. And what's really nice about it, and I'll put a link to this guy's chat. Yep. Craft Computing call out. Great work.
So ZFS, this is like way beyond NTFS. We now have ZFS. We run out of letters. We're at the Z.
And this particular piece, I'm using ZFS with deduplication. And the reason I'm using it that way is because I have a lot of files that I've gotten over the years, pictures and things like that. And rather than walking through all of them and making sure that I don't have duplicates, I can just store it in the ZFS file system if I have TrueNAS and ZFS dedupe turned on. It right. Won't take up any additional space because ZFS deduplication is at the block level. And so it doesn't matter what the file's named. It doesn't matter, any of that. So I've gone through several iterations of installing TrueNAS. So right now I call it janet.smithmier.com. Right? I started out with A, B, C, D. You know, I've installed
You're
it
right.
several times. And it's Janet now, but the next time I install it, I can't call it Janet anymore because I've installed it 19 times. And when I install it the 20th time, I'll have to start calling it Miss Jackson, right? Because it'll be nasty.
Nasty.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, we got your
That's my
references,
bad
sir.
joke.
Yep.
You're welcome. You
Well,
deserve
it was
that.
a long way to come to that one. You took
A long way to
you
get
came
there.
from.
All from, but
I
what's nice
appreciate it,
about
sir.
this, so TrueNAS, you can install it on bare metal. I've got it installed within a virtual machine, but it has these plugins that are easy to install. They're a one-click installation, and I've got my Plex server running within TrueNAS.
Flex.
And so what that means is all of my movies can now be served from this other system. And so Plex is a nice way of, you know, having your media and having it be available.
You're
And
having
your
your media and serving it too.
and then serving it. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
you can connect to it via your Roku and show your movies, show your TV shows.
Oh no, that's actually cool. So right off the bat, that might be an instant use for somebody to connect to your Roku over here. Given that your Roku, let's just say we always thought that Roku can only connect to Roku services.
Right.
So how do you? How does Roku connect to this? Is it because Plex is
There's
Roku compatible?
There's actually a Plex plugin
A Plex
for Roku.
plugin.
Yeah. And so you install the Plex plugin, you connect it to your home server, and you can stream media from there.
Wow. So this, you know what? I'm gonna put that one aside. I want a deep dive. In other words, how do you create your own? We're gonna call it Lairflix services.
How do you create Lairflix?
How do you create Lairflix? And then we're gonna make this a show to itself because I'm sure some folks are like, hey, I got capacity. We got some stuff. And like we're tired of paying 20, 30, and what's it gonna be next week? $40 a month. Uh,
So I'll tell you, it's great. So Wednesday, my son was off for a holiday, and 15, he hadn't seen the shoot. Now I've lost the name of the movie, The Big Blue People. They're about to re-release.
Avatar.
Avatar. That's right. They re-released Avatar, and so we went to the Alamo Drafthouse here in Brooklyn, and it was $70-something for 3 tickets because it was in 3D. It was beautiful. And then, we got food while we were there. It ended up costing quite a bit. If we had the Avatar disc and I could have put it in, Plex, then it would have cost us a lot less.
Quite significantly, of course. Then it's a movie
less.
experience, though.
Yeah,
it's a
movie experience.
So Raquel, even Raquel over here remembers there's a reason. Like even though, well, we've had virtual and TV and other ways of viewing things in the past, or we could like wait a little bit. Eventually, it'll be on HBO or whatever. Right. But there was a reason though. There is an experience you do get for the live feature, so that's never going to go away. However, there's a cloud story behind it as well. But the key over there, in a lot of the cases, like if you're going to spend something now, it better be worth it. That extra that you do, if you're going to go live, there better be something added value, because guess what, folks? You guys are managing theaters, guys and gals managing theaters. We can do this ourselves. If you don't give me enough, if I could have stayed home and figured this out, that's what's going to happen. So when we get there, that popcorn better be fresh, and there better be hot dogs over there. You keep running out of hot dogs, for heaven's sakes. Why do they always run out of hot dogs? They always seem to run out of hot dogs.
Right, Alamo Drafthouse. It had draft beer, so I had beer and watched a movie in a big recliner. It was great. It was
nice.
Definitely
But did they have hot dogs and popcorn though?
We had fish and chips.
Fish and chips. Okay.
And we had my son had a burger.
Okay.
Right. He had a Royale cheese.
Fancy. For me, movie theater's got to have at least the basics. I'll have your sirloin steak because we have those places over here as well. Yeah. But nope, got to make sure that the core is there. There's got to be the hot dog, the burger. What else? Dogs. Not the burger. Dogs. Popcorn.
Nachos with cheese.
Nachos with cheese. Nachos with extra cheese and the jalapeno peppers.
Yes.
I think that's the core. Everything else is like, the bit of extras. I know they try to make those mini pizzas, but I'm from
Right.
Chicago, so we're like, don't talk. Let's not talk about that. But hot dog, yeah, hot dog. It's got to have those.
So I will put a link down in the show notes to the, to the craft computing.
Okay. Raquel will go
video.
grab the show notes here.
He goes through.
Oh, there
goes
you go.
Through, putting TrueNAS up. He uses Proxmox as well. Shout out. It's a great show.
Nice.
You can manage with your Proxmox. You can manage all of your disks. You can manage pretty much everything. It is a
really
full-fledged environment.
So you've actually made it cool to actually have hardware again with this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's actually worth it now. I'm, that it's so weird that you're coming in from this angle. You're coming in from this angle. I'm sort of coming into it on the music side where I used to be doing a lot. And I was getting more virtual, doing things online, all the software and all this stuff. But lately it's been like, there's been a difference in the physical devices. So I'm picking up little things like, the stuff that you actually can step on. I like this one. This is it's a loop machine. What does it do? A loop machine. So I'll do like my baseline, Ray Manzarek thing. And then I hit the button, I step on it, and it keeps playing it while I go and play something else.
Yeah.
Sounds like simple tech. Could you do it in the laptop? Sure, you could. You do it anything else? But the sensation of doing it with a pedal where you click in there, especially if there's other pedals that you can hit to the metal to make things happen, is different. So I even like little keyboards, and all of a sudden, all these things they're costing a little bit because they're physical material and of course supply chain and all, but it's different, right? The metal, the bare metal still has a purpose and still lives.
So, and I'm a big Pi believer, right? I do Raspberry Pis. I've got the Intel Compute Stick, small devices. But this guy, the Beast is a big old Dell server. And
speaking of that, speaking of Raspberry Pi stuff, so you remember we had a show one time with we were talking about the virtual conference that was done, and then we talked with Joel Olson and those guys. Remember Galen and Galen Keene and Ryan Scooten? They came up with what's called a streamer in a box. It's a real it's a service. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but here's the thing, and it happened at the Power Platform Conference. We'll have a segue to that in a moment, but essentially they bring it over and they connect it to any of the AV if you think about a conference system has AV and they have it usually in a certain and what's turning out to be a standard way, HDMI connectors, audio, the place for like the microphones and all that stuff to go and all the pieces. It has all the connections for all of that. At the same time, it has the connections for if you have multiple laptops and multiple monitors because you might want to do something fancy. Say you have two presenters and they're all going back and forth and stuff. Connections for that. And within connections to guess where? The internet. And he can stream now from the box, not just to YouTube, but to more than one streaming service as well. The streaming stuff is built into it. So it's got all the fast controls to go click, 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 and turn on the stream, and in other words, all that setup that would usually take a long time to do is ready to go in a box. And I asked him, I thought it was like a virtual box. No, it's a physical box with all the smarts in it and all the plugs to be able to. So basically they can take it. They can go to any conference somewhere and they can turn any conference into a live streaming and live event hybrid show.
Right.
Like that. We're going to bring those guys back because that sounds like a fun cloud
and into that hardware. I mean,
hardware things. Yes.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of cloud things,
I'm going to drop off.
Let me show you what I got over here. Something that came from that Power Platform conference. Sure. I'm in conference mode over here, one after the other. And just for some folks out there, I'm speaking at Ignite also next week, Microsoft Ignite. I will tell you that story and that adventure later. Not many people can go. It's hybrid this year. Signed
up for the virtual.
Yeah, you can always sign up for the virtual. I will have a virtual session. I'm actually brought in as a SME. I'm actually a SME in one of the sessions. But for the one that's private, you have to be there, as they say. Don't worry about it. We can talk about it. Hey, so I found this thing. Hidden in the Power Platform non-Microsofty conference was this fellow, very nice fellow, very smart fellow, Ilya Grebnov from Microsoft. So I say, well, he's showing this to the public, so I'm going to give him massive credit for this one in particular. I just wanted to get on the cool side of Larry here and show him some stuff. Right.
Cool.
So, all right. So we're talking about principles. Yes, because we got principles, right? Something called project thesis, which is involved here. They're talking about the invincible platform, which is like a challenge, right? It's like, oh,
Right.
all right, platform's invincible. You dare. They give a roadmap and stuff. They talk about the Power Platform. I think we've been here before. We've seen these things.
Right.
Here's the thing. So he starts out, how large is Power Platform? Did you ever wondered? Folks that ever
Yeah.
wondered?
What?
So who would know this? Microsoft would know this. 24 freaking million logic apps.
No. Yeah, move to the right.
Look. Yep.
400,000
cores. 300 plus microservices. Well, that's not so bad. There's services that might have more than that, but that's a lot. 2 million what SQL databases, not records. Databases.
Full databases.
Right. How about this one? 15,000 Cosmos DB collections.
Wow.
Hey, wait, hold on a second. You can see Cosmos DB is cooler than SQL because there's only 15K of those when you need 2 million of these.
There you go.
Hey, so isn't that almost a lesson in stuff? All right.
Yeah.
How about this one? 1,000 plus VM scale sets. 290 service fabric clusters. Talk about clusters.
Wow.
And they talk about, here's their challenges. I always wonder about this because remember, sometimes we complain, it's like, we're trying to do this stuff in Power Platform. We're trying to do this in M365 in this little world. And
Right.
we're complaining, we're making stuff happen. So like, and then realize that Microsoft is now doing this at scale for all of this. And this is, by the way, just Power Platform, not counting M365 or Azure itself, right behind it. So Azure itself, if this is Power Platform, Azure itself must be
huge. Yes.
Ooh, okay, so what do we got here? So they're saying what their problems are. Now we're in Larry land. Here we go. Principles of good fault-tolerant architecture. They're talking about, so they're basically talking about the idea because the concept is this apparently went behind something they called project thesis, which is apparently to take a sailing ship and make it into a rocket ship. Or as we like to say, digital transformation.
Digital transformation. Converting from making farm machinery into race cars.
You got it. So they're going over here and they're saying the challenges to the platform. But here we go. Look, the architecture. So apparently they use something called the islands architecture. Here's some islands, and they actually call them that island, blah, blah, blah. They show where the geo is and where they're happening. And they talk about like the thousands of customers in each of these areas, how they vary by size. Well, let's take a look. They clarified that an island is not a unit of capacity. Hey, that is a cloud principle, right? If capacity is involved here, you ruined your fine line from that, right? Island is a unit of isolation. This makes sense. I like this one. It's a fault domain of essentially. It's good for just about everybody, and of course there will be people that will fall through the cracks, but that's how it works, right? I like this one over here. The islands architecture. Compute stateless. Storage is stateful. And there's they're showing where the replication goes on. This is simple architecture. It seems simple enough, right?
Yes.
Making it happen is where the power is. And let's take a look at this footprint. Let's see. What do they got here? They got load balancing. Okay. Traffic manager. Okay, sure. In the stateless compute, some microservices, the monoliths, the big guys, and of course serverless.
And I do just want to take a break here for a moment and talk about, that some people are religious about microservices and everything must be a microservice. And there are definitely cases where a monolith works. A monolith is the correct solution.
Yes.
So
that's a good one. But take a look. Here's Microsoft happening in the big area, and they haven't fallen down, and they're making money hand over fist. And there it is. You're seeing that monolith is part of a appropriate architecture choice.
And this is not a legacy play. This is a new monolith that they built because that is the appropriate architecture for the pieces that they're building.
Exactly.
So if you see and hear monolith, don't think legacy. Okay.
Mm-hmm. You got it. So speaking, let's go to the data side. Of course, data side are friendly because we love data. And look at that. Everything's in here. SQL elastic pools. So, I didn't realize that SQL had elastic pools. I thought that was who did that? That was that other system that had elastic pools. I've been so out of it for such a long time, and I said I'm gonna look into this later on. SQL, apparently there's SQL Elastic. There's Cosmos DB. We know about that. Good old Logic Apps, the cognitive services, the newer Synapse that are part of this, and Azure storage. So that's all there. That's all happening. Again, other than I know there's SQL, but the fact that they have elastic pools for that, to me, that I'd like to learn more about that. That's for sure.
And so just this morning I was going through an architecture, a proposal that the client that I'm working at, a proposal that was being presented as a solution, and they did not talk about Power BI. They were talking about doing it old school. They were talking about building out a
report
data
server
warehouse and building all of this stuff. And I was like, guys, Power BI will do that all like automatically for you behind the scenes, and you don't have to spend your energy building it out. Why put
Yep. Oh, hey, that's actually my talk at the Des Moines user group. Exactly. That's my talk at my Des Moines Azure group next week. Wow, I'm doing that as well on a Tuesday. I'm sort of like live from Seattle. But I talk about that. It's like, well, Azure behind the scenes does all that stuff. But the point of the low code is like, why are you doing this when the low code pieces are there? Azure supporting versus the other way around. I'm still trying to figure out what this quiz was. I missed the quiz actually on this one. I think they're trying to say, hey, try to guess what's next. It's like as you go up and down the ring over here, the ring dependencies. But let's see. Following through. Okay, impact. Okay, so this is important. They want to basically the impact minimization pyramid. They're calling it essentially where there's no. So yes, you're doing something this big. It's important. You don't skimp, and this is where this is the no skimp slide. I call it. There's monitoring. There's no monitoring gaps. So I said, well, how can
monitoring everything?
How can you not monitor something? It's like, well, it happens. I can't tell you how many times it happens. I set up dashboards and all this stuff, and no one's reviewing them. No one's looking at what's going on. And then they're like, oh, we're getting an error. I'm getting a message that alert something is broken. Well, was anyone watching the wheel?
Right.
It's like someone's got to watch it somehow. However you come up with it, there can't be any gaps if you want something mission critical to work.
And you have
this. Go ahead.
You have people that go the other direction as well, right? Where there's too much noise. Where
yes.
You're getting alerts on things that are just regular run. Right?
Exactly.
Why should I get an alert saying that something succeeded?
Right. Wolf is being cried at you so many times that you're going to ignore the whole message because you just light blinded essentially.
Absolutely.
I like this other one on process. Look at that. No global deployments. Is really every time you hear a problem with some other company said they did something and it broke, the whole system came down. This is one of those, right? Hey, I'm going to globally deploy something. Well, duh. That's the sure way you're going to, if you want to shoot yourselves in the foot via way of your head, sure. Let's do a global deployment. Yeah. Finally, finally,
we've seen SharePoint do this all the time, right? SharePoint has been doing rolling updates forever.
You got it.
And SharePoint Online, it's all about that rolling update. It's all about the tenant that you're in, and in this case, we would call it the island. The island that you're in gets updated. That minimizes the risk. That mitigates it by having a single, kind of really a test, right? A canary deployment.
Well, and the act of doing it from one to the other is itself, it's like continuous testing. Yes. Hey, continuous integration, continuous deployment. How about continuous testing?
Absolutely.
What a concept. I like this one. Partitioning, no single point of failures. Essentially, whatever you're doing, the one thing is not going to kill you all. There's no place where that could happen. Right. I mean, that's cool. I like a safe change management. There's a good way to take it. And check. Oh, so this is interesting. So if someone's wondering on the Power Platform, I think this is I don't think this is Power Platform specific. I think this is Microsoft practice in general.
Yes.
And I have a feeling Microsoft's not the only one that does it like this. This feels like a, a good way of doing it, and maybe people might have a different term for it, but it feels like this is the way.
Yes.
It's like a Mandalorian from a different planet, like sort of.
Right.
All right, so he goes back and you look at it, he's pointing it out, and notice
Yeah,
how.
yeah.
Oh, check this out. So they're showing how they were doing, right? So they said here's what we were getting when we started, and our goal is to like auto detect the outages, right? Remember, monitoring is key, right? There are going to be outages. What are you going to do? Right? Things are going to go wrong, but the idea is you're more successful at dealing with them when you freaking detect them and when you do it in a more automated fashion. And here, as you can see, is the case of them getting stats to show that they're succeeding.
Well, and I love the bottom part of that too, where they're talking about, the noise versus the actual results, and that's where
Yes.
that AI really fits in. It's
Yes.
helping to detect and know if it's just regular noise, and really just filter it out and not have it something that you're seeing.
So this looks
So,
like their secret stats to say when we did this in the last few months, here are the numbers we got.
yeah,
So when they had essentially an outage, 63% of those outages are detectable. So it's highly accurate, but as they say, all of these can be done, but the noise was low. That's key.
right,
So here we go. The goal of project thesis apparently is risks and fault domain minimization, but this was not a goal.
right.
They were not going to fix faults. I mean, what are you gonna? It's like saying, "Hey, I'm going to solve that. There's never going to be winter ever again in Chicago." And well, you can't solve that problem. You're just going to deal with the fact that there will be winter to whatever level. Yes, then you deal with it. That's sort of what this feels like.
But prepare, right? Perfect.
And there we go. And now they have. I guess that's where they justify now this slide, the invincible platform.
Right.
Where
So they're looking at 3 nines, which is 5 minutes a year
a year.
of outages. That's pretty crazy.
That is pretty crazy. I think I have a feeling though this is their goal. I have a feeling they're still working through here somewhere, but this would be the goal. So it's a good goal. It's a good goal to have. Let's take a look at these core services, how they're putting it in, and here we go: the control plane, the management plane, and the runtime plane. And this is where the islands live.
Right.
And here they're showing the replication going on. So this is nothing fancy over here. Pretty straightforward. Nice symmetrical model for essentially dealing with disaster recovery, essentially.
Right.
And of course, availability zones. We can talk about that another time, but yeah, this is a very important concept. And when they came up with this in Azure, it was a game changer, frankly.
Right.
Availability zones. Here we go. And oh, this is their future look. What's their future look?
Future model.
Power Platform offers zone redundancy and disaster recovery by default by leveraging Azure. Okay, smaller footprint, redundancy in 3+ zones requires 50% resource over provisioning and support one zone outage. Okay, so this is apparently what they're trying to get to. So it does make sense that they're not there yet, because that's hefty to get there.
Yes.
Let's look at their roadmap. Right now they're able to deal with all these items over here. Looks like they're still working with connectors and flows and apps. On the resiliency, they got the connectors going. That's the key. Connectors got to go. This, of course, cloud flows and Dataverse makes sense. Then they ask for questions. Oh, this. I mean, wow. I thought that was impressive when I saw that. I'm like, oh. So this
It
is
is.
what's under the covers, running all this stuff, and
Well,
the fact that they're doing it at scale.
yeah, and it's at a global scale, right? It's a different. So when we were little, right, when we were junior developers back in, I won't even
Yes.
say a year. I won't even say a year. But we were controlling our own space. That's all we controlled. So it's sort of like we were riding a bicycle. Okay, you're in complete control. You're providing the motive power. You're on a bicycle. That's what you're doing. As we grow a little bit and we start leading teams, it's sort of like we're riding a horse. Okay,
Yes.
you have a partner that is your team, and you're guiding it around. But as you get up to this global scale, you're riding a dragon. Okay, I mean this is the if you do have a problem, it's not small. It becomes
Yes.
very large. If you
It
lose
multiplies
control,
itself. Yes.
it's worse by far than just falling off the horse. Okay, you're in the air, you're going to fall to your death. And
Yeah.
the dragon's going to go eat a town. I don't know.
Yep. See you later, dragon.
It's beyond even the enterprise. At an enterprise level, it's sort of like you're driving a truck.
Right.
Okay, but that's at an enterprise level. We're well beyond that. We're not riding tigers. We're riding dragons.
Right.
These
It's
guys are.
actually even bigger than that. Almost it feels like it's like we're riding a. It's like that super beast that's almost like a planet to itself,
Well,
and
yeah. I
swallow
mean,
you up.
it's like being the captain of a generation ship, right?
Yeah.
Old sci-fi. I can see you're in space now. You've got your NASA gear on.
I'm all set.
Yeah. So I mean, it's beyond the level that most of us have to deal with. So I mean, kudos, hats off. They're doing great work.
I thought that and the idea, of course, here's and what we're trying to show is not that necessarily, oh, look at Microsoft so cool for doing this. As we go through this, we see principles that everyone else in our profession is employing to
Right.
their degree, whatever they need to go through. What we're showing you is essentially all those lessons, those little ones, sometimes those basics. Sometimes you got to go back to the basics, right? And you look at them, it's like, well, it's like when we were kids, like, I'm taking all this math. When is that ever going to help me? And then you have adults saying, yeah, no, math never helped me. And they're the folks that can't balance their checkbooks and stuff like that. It's like, well, like, do they need to balance their checkbooks? Yeah, you still do. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you still do.
You still do, but the difference between that is to say, here is to show that all those lessons, everything you learn, everything you come through here, or however you get to it, does have a purpose, does have a conclusion that you can take it to whatever umpteenth level you want. But most importantly, is worthy of something to keep in your brain and not lose through brain
The
cell
same
dissemination.
principles keep applying. You're just
Yes.
applying them in finer and finer grained detail.
You got it. And not just detail, but also in detail that adds scale. So it's like it
That's
could be
it.
just more and more of it. And then you begin to realize that you can, if the patterns are good, your pattern can grow. At some point, though, there's always, they say, there's like, there are certain rules in physics that say, doesn't matter what pattern you have, but you will get to a certain point where entropy and other things will happen and
Right.
things will break. Well, that's all fine and well. But here's the thing, until that happens, what are you worried about? It's like, hey,
Exactly.
I'm worried about like we're
Hey,
all gonna die. It's like, yes, we're all gonna die, but live in the meantime. That's
yep,
essentially what we're
yep.
saying here. Don't worry about that right now. Just do the living part. We'll
So
figure out the rest later.
if you think about it, if you back up even 10 years, people were saying that Moore's law was over,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Moore's law is over. We're not going to continue to multiply the computing power that we have by 2 every 4 years, whatever Moore's law is. But we've continued. They've made strides, and they've continued to. So there it is. The number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years. Another way to look at it is your computing power doubles every 2 years, and we're
right.
still on that curve. They're still increasing the amount of compute that we have. Look at the diagram that we just saw. There's an application, a suite of applications that's running on 400,000 cores, 400,000 compute cores.
Wow.
Just mind-boggling.
It's like I said, and exponentially over here as it's going through.
Yeah.
I got nearly 60 years old. Wow. I'm
Still going strong.
somebody's approaching that particular time as well here. So wow. Yeah. Oh, hold on a second. Impending end. Hold on a second. Experts agree we should reach physical limits in the 2020s. What?
Haven't
Well, hold on a
yet.
second. Is it? But is that true? Is that this is what they were saying? Because they're saying that we're going to hit, but we're here. We're here in the 2020s.
Right. Well,
All right.
if you look down in a 2005 interview,
Yep.
Moore said that, hey, we're getting down to the atomic level. We can't get it any smaller. We can't get it any faster. And they continue to make strides, and they continue to do it.
and somehow they're figuring it out. So
we're using different lasers now. We're using different light for the masks because the transistors that we're making are smaller than the wavelength of the light that we used 10 years ago
indeed,
to make the chips.
yeah,
It's crazy.
we're getting to that point where essentially that quantum realm, we're getting there, at least on at least in the virtual world.
Yeah.
Right? Will that translate to the real world? That would be the next frontier, I suppose. Hopefully, we'll be around for that when I finally get my flying car.
Yeah, we'll boil the oceans with the CPUs that we have.
We will.
It'll be awesome.
We had a good one here. We covered lots
Good
of
show,
stuff
yeah.
today. So next week, I'm coming back from Ignite, so there's no show next week because I will probably be either still on a plane or freshly coming off a plane.
All right.
One of those two things are going to happen. So probably, unless I have a show where like on camera going with like a live action or like one of those crazy ads where like, well, here's Ralph, he's talking through it on his phone. Rather than do that, we're just going to take a break next week. But we should start thinking about, we have our potential guests that we had on the list over here. It's time to bring them.
Time to bring them to the game. So not next week, but the week after. Stay tuned. We'll see you then.
We will.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Uncle Lair. Talk to you soon. Raquel, please take us out.